Well, as we continue our coverage of the First Minister's meeting in Ottawa today, we're now joined by Susan Holt, Premier of New Brunswick. Premier, thank you for taking the time.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks, Michael.
You know, I was wondering from your perspective, what was actually accomplished today by the gathering of the First Ministers in Ottawa?
We accomplished a number of things today. Everyone is aligned on the strategy for next week, and should the tariffs come into place, we're ready to respond in a way that everyone supports. We got the nod that we were looking for from the federal government in terms of our request to have regular weekly meetings to make sure that we're moving forward on this issue with focus and with all of the power of the Federation, the Council of Premiers and the First Ministers and Minister LeBlanc. We got some great insight shared by Ambassador Hillman that I think has helped get everyone on the same page and improve our understanding of the dynamics in the U.S. right now. And it was a great chance for us to continue to share what we've been hearing from Americans and the allies that we've been building in a preparation to achieve our shared goal, which is to fight the tariffs. The premiers are united in this single focus of fighting and eliminating the tariffs that threaten the Canadian economy.
Mm-hmm. So what insight were you able to gain here in Ottawa that you did not have prior to this meeting of the First Ministers?
Well, today was really to discuss what our first step is going to be should the tariffs be put in place. And we needed to agree on an approach to retaliation and what that might look like and when it might be deployed. And so we certainly accomplished that today.
Except the Premier of Alberta was very quick to turn to social media and said that she could not sign on because the Prime Minister could not guarantee that there would not be an export tax on oil and gas. How difficult is that opposition from such a key player in the Federation?
Well, I think what's unfortunately being unlooked here is that everyone was united in the steps that we're preparing to take next week. And I think actually a lot of the premiers share a concern about export tariffs on our economies. But we know that that's not the first tool that we're going to move to. But we have to do what eliminates this threat because the threat of these tariffs is bigger than any one of our provinces or economies. And so we're prepared to continue to collaborate and work together. The discussions today were really healthy. People expressed different points of view, shared information to reach a point where we could all come to consensus about what next week looks like and where we go from there. And so I think we all share some of the fears that were expressed by Premier Smith about how far this might go. But I think we're all ready to act in a unified way next week.
Already, but again, she did not sign the final communique. So does that mean then part of the task for premiers outside of Alberta is to not only lobby American politicians and business, but perhaps also lobby the Alberta Premier?
Oh, I don't think so. I think if we look at the focus that's ahead of us and the work that is to be done next week, we are all on the same page. I think the hypotheticals about what might come after that, we can tackle next week, and I have a hunch that we will continue to align on those things as we move forward. That's what we accomplished today, and I think at our next meeting when we talk about supports that the federal government and the provinces can offer, we'll talk it through and find alignment, and then when we get to the need to talk about the next steps, the next tools in our toolkit that we use, we will find a place of alignment. And so I've been convinced from the collaborative work that I've seen from the premiers around the table that we can get there because all of us are prepared to fight and defend Canada's economy and our province's economies, and we're doing that in respect of each other with lots of differences, but all of those differences are coming together to fight this. And so I'm confident that the Premier of Alberta is going to be fighting these tariffs and doing it alongside us.
Now, of course, when Donald Trump issued this tariff threat, it was done through social media, and in doing so, he listed security concerns as his rationale for pursuing tariffs against Canada. Subsequently, Canada has unveiled over $1.3 billion worth of security investments to try to address those concerns. I'm wondering, based around the table, whether or not premiers and first ministers believe that security investment has had any impact to dissuade Donald Trump from these tariffs.
That's a good question, actually, because we've put together a strong border plan. I think it's something that's really going to benefit Canadians. We've had some positive feedback from leaders in the U.S. about what's been proposed. But we also have the sense that that Donald Trump was using the borders as a means by which he could put tariffs in place without having to go through Congress. And so we're all interested to see what happens next week. And it's well, I wouldn't put my own money on what might happen.
Mm-hmm. So something to be watching out for. Now, of course, the inauguration of Donald Trump is next week. The Prime Minister, his tenure is coming up come early March when the Liberals choose a new leader. Is it problematic right now to have a Prime Minister that may be viewed by some as a lame duck going into such serious discussions about Canada's economy?
Well, I think it's a good thing that we have the full attention and focus of the ambassador, of Ministers LeBlanc, Minister Joly, and the Prime Minister, and that none of them will be experiencing distractions in the face of the biggest threat that Canada's economy has seen in a very long while. And so I think I've been calling to have somebody at the table who's nonpartisan and who can see us through this from tomorrow right through to the end of 2025. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to add some stability to that table, because we know that there is elections coming one way or another. But I also appreciate that we've seen a very focused federal government that has put a lot of priority in moving quickly, in working closely with the provinces, in considering New Brunswick's interests as well as everyone else, and putting forward, I think, is a really strong strategy both for the border and to fight these tariffs should we have to next week.
So are you then comforted by the idea that Dominic LeBlanc says he'll not be running for the Liberal leadership in order to focus on the United States?
Absolutely. Dominic has already been doing some great work building the relationships that we need to in the U.S. And working with folks down there. He's a very skilled negotiator, and to have him sticking with this file, bringing the work that he's done over the last many months, and continuing that forward is going to benefit Canadians.
So we're now about 5 days away from the U.S. inauguration. Donald Trump will be officially the U.S. president again come Monday. I'm wondering what you see your task as the Premier of New Brunswick in the next few days, in the next few weeks. What will you be doing based on the strategy that was shared today around the table?
I am going to be continuing the work that we've been doing to build as many allies in the U.S. as possible, and to ensure that Americans really understand how this Trump tariff tax is going to make life more expensive for them, to build the chorus of governors and senators and congresspeople and American business leaders that will be expressing the damage that these tariffs are going to cause to their economy and the economy of New Brunswick and Canada alike, such that that chorus of voices becomes so loud and so clear that the Trump administration realizes the pain that they've inflicted on Americans and eliminates the tariffs.
Premier Holt, thank you for this. Appreciate it. It's been a long day. Thank you for the time.
My pleasure. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you. Safe journey home.